Hey, it's Rita and Scott. We are Cosmic Fixer, Cosmic Dialogers, where we speak from the future about what's happening in the future. And also, we tend to discover things manifest after we do that. And you all know this if you watched us. So we've had a little discussion about the old way is gone, done. Old, that people aren't realizing it. This during the COVID-19 and all the upheavals and economic crises and things that are happening, we just realized that people aren't accepting that the old is just gone. It's gone. And so we thought we'd do a dialogue on that. So how should we do that? Should we just start a few years and say we realized when it was gone, or should we say this is what took its place, or just talk about what we saw?
Yeah, let's just see what comes out.
Okay.
I'll start this time.
Okay, great.
It is it's November 2020, and back at the end of June, we realized that everything had just dismantled itself, and yet people weren't actually noticing that the old systems weren't functioning. There was still this charade that the old systems, political, social, health systems, were continuing. People were still relying on science, except that science also had been dismantled because nothing was actually based on science as far as the systems were concerned. It was all based on money. So people were still operating with money as the currency. And we were realizing that that's just not it now. And that's why people were having such a difficult time and even going a little crazy, because they were doing things the old way, again, according to the old rules, things that we had been taught, and it wasn't having results that it was supposed to have because everything was just done. So it was like walking around in kind of zombie land. None of it was making sense, except that you and I were noticing that life was making a lot more sense, finally, whereas it hadn't been for a good decade. So now it's November, and it took about until September for most people, or for a number of people, to really actually start noticing, oh, well, the system's not even there anymore. Now what? So what did you notice when they had to go through a breakdown of that loss, even though they were losing something pretty terrible?
Yeah. Well, I living in a little college town, I always get the vibe of like the students when they come back. And what they came back to was a college campus full of rules and agreements and a structure that didn't even resemble what they were learning, what they came to know as a college campus. They had to sign an agreement or a pledge to do certain things, to always wear masks in class, to always do to no unnecessary travel, no more study abroad, no more, gatherings in your residence hall. And so this affected students here in this little college town. You had a lot of students start to question, why am I here really? Why couldn't I just learn online? Why am I sending this? Why are we sending this resource called money into the school? Why are my teachers not showing up? So even like that structure was a small little microcosm, just sort of like became a shadow. That's what people started saying of that. Some students and faculty said, it's like you're going up the hill to campus and it's a shadow of itself. It's not even the thought experiment place that it's supposed to be, according to the old paradigm, because there's something about fear, I think, that really ate into a system as well. The buying into fear tends to accelerate the dying off of an old system, and especially when you just try to bring that back after you've let that control system erode. You can't have the same river if you've allowed nuclear waste to penetrate it. You won't have the same fish. You won't have the same wildlife. You won't have that. If you have a mucky, polluted, radioactive river. So that was one thing in my town that I noticed. And also just with the election time of November, it was just chaotic. People didn't know how to vote, where to vote, if they could vote by mail, if they could vote in person, if they should vote in person. Those were the concerns. It wasn't about candidates, because people were really realizing, oh my gosh, these candidates are the ones chosen for us. And it didn't matter if you were on the left or the right or in between. People began to realize that. And we had the lowest voter turnout in history, in recorded history percentage, because so many people did not. The system was just flattened. So I think what people still were sort of realizing, they wanted to live with the old to the extent that they didn't want to press people with new creative ideas like their leaders. They weren't yet ready. And I think that's the energy that should have come about through all of this, but it didn't. People were still wanting to go on to, get into the same car, go to the same job, go to the same school, have their kids go to school for the same amount of time and get that old life back. And some people got it back, but then it also created dissonance. It was like the whole system also just wouldn't even allow itself to go back to normal, even where they were quote normal and people could work again 8 to 5 and go to class, and then come home and do homework. It was just, it wouldn't even work. It's just been that way where, and even in like college towns, like professors were at a loss for do I give these kids homework or do I just let them be? Which is a big thing because, there was a huge stress. They were noticing, wow, we've put, students through this. They're under such tight controls. This is breaking them down. We can't control them. Or when we try to control them, everything breaks down. We try to bring it back to the way it was, everything breaks down. Oh, the first time a choir got together to try to sing through masks was just massively triggering for folks. And then if they took off the masks, that was massively triggering for folks. It was, yeah, people were just triggered rather than wanting to kind of float to the next thing. I mean, and that was the thing that we kind of realized, we could float to the next thing if we just allowed that to happen. So I'm actually kind of waiting to see what next year will bring. I'm sure that enrollments, colleges, universities will be down.
Mm-hmm.
More students here decided to take a gap year rather than come back.
Yeah.
They decided this year was just not, it was not going to be worth it for them. And so they decided they were going to take a year to stay home or to, to actually travel the US on their own. Those were the courageous ones. I'm so glad they did that, but that was not the majority. Yeah, what else did you see?
Well, it was really fascinating to watch. And like there was no way to explain that these things weren't there. Guys, it's just not there. And yet you're still operating as if it is. And to just watch them, like you said, the more they tried, the more it just fell apart.
Yeah.
And to let everybody go through that, because that was the only way they had to experience it in order to know it. And just so much gratitude for being aware of it as it happened rather than after the fact. And to, like you said, just float to the next thing, because the structure, the foundation was not there. So there's nothing to walk on. So you might as well learn to float. And just the amazing things that were able to happen by noticing the truth that it wasn't there. And so then asking, okay, then how do we navigate what is here? And learning what is here rather than all of the old structures that we had been operating on. So it was just like every day was a new thing to learn and be excited about, because there were all these abilities, all of these human capabilities that we hadn't been allowed to explore or use, because that old structure and all those old systems were so oppressive to what it is to really be human. And so we just went ahead and were more fully human and let everyone else do what they were going to do. There was no need to teach or show. We were having too much fun being in it.
But at the same time, it was very powerful for us to observe it.
Yeah.
The other side, very powerful, while we floated on to the next thing. I mean, really, I think once we observed this enough to realize that this is a more of a positive outcome, you can either say, yeah, our structures fell away and there was nothing there, or our structures fell away and there was nothing there. And so you and I kind of jumped to that excited spot.
Yeah, I'm going the contrast with there's nothing here. And yeah, there's nothing here.
Nothing here. And that's, And for many people, we just realized the best thing they could do at the time, if they weren't able to get to that point, was just pause. Just, okay, take a pause.
Mm-hmm.
Like the students that decided to take a year off. I'm taking a year off. Screw this. Or the people who decided to homeschool for a year. It didn't matter if their kid was 6 or 7 or 15. You know, or the people who decided to, I am just gonna work from home no matter what for a year, and maybe I'll go back to that old job, or maybe I won't. So it was. I was glad to see there was that kind of gradualness. I mean, if they weren't going to come over to this side of, oh my goodness, this is incredible, at least they were willing to like, okay, they're going to just make a change, even if it's temporary. Because you never know. I mean, those folks will probably make another step and another step and another step.
Mm-hmm.
So at least they're moving. We wanted more people on our side, but that's okay. We're used to being loners on the edge. So, but I realized that you and I, it was like a party with popcorn to watch the elections unfold.
Mm-hmm.
Because we knew this is it. This is like we're watching a rerun of an old I Love Lucy program, stumbling and they're going bad. And it's like black and white to color. They had to change.
Yep.
And it was like watching an old rerun.
The last episode, the finale.
Yeah. And just saying, wow, that was a good run.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad it's over.
Yeah.
Because we knew that we were waking up the next day, no matter what,
mm-hmm.
to the cliff, and we'd have to learn to fly. Yep. Either way. And what a gift.
Yeah.
So, whereas many people didn't see it as a gift,
to say the least.
No, I know. But all the positives, we knew ahead of time, all the positives that were even going to come out of COVID, even before we realized that, this was kind of a sacred time for us. All the things that happened for us during the COVID crisis and financial situations straightened out. And we learned so much more about our abilities. We learned how sacred we were in the sacred crowns of the coronas. So we got that before these last, 7 months by November.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were a little untouchable. A lot untouchable, I'll say that. We're a lot untouchable.
Yeah, and not because there was anything different about us from anyone else, except that we were noticing the truth of things and being able to accept it. And we had our times when we really had to feel sorrow and grief, and we would just feel it. We didn't have to go on Facebook rants about it. We were just feeling what we experienced. And that's what would open up the gifts.
Yeah. That and quiet.
Mm-hmm.
I went through my share of losses.
Mm-hmm.
The loss of I had my own share of fear and losses when the protests happened in my own state.
Mm-hmm.
Buildings were pummeled, knowing this many of those would never come back.
Mm-hmm.
Places I lived in Minneapolis would never come back to where they were. So that was a big loss. The loss of my dog, but she's in the spirit world and she dreams with me all the time. So not really a loss, but just a physical loss.
Yeah.
In the system, well, she's not even in the system now that's broken, so she's also untouchable.
Right.
So I can't really claim it as a full total loss. But more and more people too are. No one really. The very most that we get, we don't really get they're really strange and crazy and woo woo. The most we get is silence
Yeah.
from folks now, which is a little adjustment.
Because now we're just asking what does work. Okay, let's try it.
Yeah.
Find out, does it work or doesn't it?
Yeah.
And sometimes we have our days of trying to do things the old way from the old programming, and then we notice, and then we release that from our patterns, and then it's clear what does work.
Right.
And it's never what you would ever dream
No.
would be the thing that would work. So that just started to become normal. Talk about the new normal.
Yeah, finding brilliance in places where you would normally find just grief and despair was something totally unexpected,
Mm-hmm.
for me at least. And then just seeing like this collapse in our learning system so close to home because of the anxieties of students and the new control and the new no one knew what they were coming back to. It wasn't the same at all. Students having takeaway meals, going back to their dorm rooms to see no one because they had a cough or they had a sniffle, and having to wear a mask and feel isolated again. Those who sang couldn't sing. We're the choral capital of the universe here. Singing at St. Olaf College is one of the, it was a new paradigm. Socially distanced choirs were very, and everybody tried to make the photo op. The Christmas festival, was just different, and we had to pan our cameras around just to show all the choir members' faces, and then they put their masks on when they leave in file and circle file. It was just surreal, and it was just a shadow of itself. And the more people really stood and realized that it was a shadow of itself, the more they realized that I either have to get out of it or I have to really find a way for something new to come in. Or they would just break down and finally have that breakdown in their normal.
Yeah.
In some ways, it was easier to have their breakdown when it all kind of hit.
Mm-hmm.
But then the breakdown in their normal. We're back to normal, but why do I feel so horrible? Why am I so tense or anxiety ridden? Why do I sleep in every day?
Mm-hmm.
We're supposed to be going back to normal. It's just not there.
Back in June, I realized that I realized something, and I can't remember what it was now. Yeah, things didn't work. It wasn't that. We already talked about that. It'll come.
Was it money? Money currency?
Well, that's certainly a big part of the changes people need to go through. the importance of money, or it's not the importance of money, it's the putting it first as the goal. That's what I knew for sure was changing back in the summer. And that left a huge void, a huge open space. Well, if that's not the goal, then what is?
I think goals in general
Yeah.
became almost a futile exercise.
Yeah, kind of hilarious. It's like here's what it is. Well, I was going to say that saying that you want to hear God laugh, tell him your plans. That was just like connecting the dots right away every day as the summer went on. It's like nothing planned was ever going to happen that way. So I realized back in June, when people were still angry about what others were or were not doing, that none of us, we couldn't not help it move forward and help it fall apart. We couldn't not. Double negative there, but it didn't matter what we were doing, we were assisting breaking everything apart. And that was such a feeling of relief to be operating in the world at that time, to just see someone angry and say, thank you for assisting this along. See others who were really suffering and living out or maybe even dying in whatever next thing was going to happen. Thank you as well.
And the people who were, everything was like turned on their head. There were people who were more financially secure with the unemployment benefits they were getting than when they were working. And also that's another thank you for moving things along.
Mm-hmm.
Or other people who were just full of new ideas, even if they didn't work out. And the people who really tried, those community work, community development people who really, really tried and kept trying and kept trying. Yeah. And God doesn't laugh at us to mock us, to make us feel less than, or to make us suffer.
Mm-hmm. It's just a compassionate, well, okay, you can try that.
Yeah.
I'll still be here when you're done. Let me know when you want to hear my plans.
Or they've got some learning they're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
They have no idea.
Yep.
And it's a joyous learning eventually.
Mm-hmm. That's what's so exciting about now in November is I feel that the potential of joyousness coming.
Yeah. I think we will see like an interesting Christmas, New Year's. We'll have to do a future. But there's still going to be a probably amount of people who are still wanting to like buy their way back into a better Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
But I do hope that many folks decide that, okay, everything is new, everything has changed, everything's a shadow. Let's take a step in a different direction. Let's do something completely different. Yeah. And see where that takes us. Completely different. Maybe families won't get together for Christmas, but they'll do something completely different.
Black Friday was hilarious.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. because the corporations that benefit the most didn't see it, whereas they thought they were going to exponentially profit more. Nope.
And even the term Black Friday was not a
Yeah.
good thing to use anymore.
Yeah.
We couldn't use the term Black Friday anymore. Just that had broken down even to our language. So I was like, I don't think it's not a good idea.
Yeah.
And
And it was, and yeah, I certainly, it was a lot of fun watching
yeah,
the powers understand that it had all disappeared.
yeah.
That part was enjoyable.
And ironically, we've seen like these little stimulus checks come in and how the only thing their government could really do was like try to send us money. There wasn't any real change, but they wanted to send us money.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Well, okay, we'll take that. When that doesn't work either, what will you do? So yeah, I mean, that was interesting. Just colleges reduced their tuition. Some places decided to do a few courses free just to get more students. Oh, please come to our school. We're hemorrhaging. Okay, we'll take a free class.
Mm-hmm.
So it just, I am excited for what's coming. But yeah, it's this whole, it's all gone. Everything is gone. And many people are realizing that, but they're just.
So, for anybody who watches this, just step into that it's gone. There's no point in trying to revive it.
Yeah. And there's nothing there. Nothing. What is that? What possibilities does that give you?
Yeah.
Wow. How many generations will have a blank canvas to work from?
Mm-hmm.
How many people get that opportunity to work from zero? Ooh, there's that zero again.
Mm-hmm. 0 persons.
A zero person. And there's something special about that.
Mm-hmm.
Incredibly special. It is an incredible gift. Whether people think of it that way or not.
Yeah.
I feel like God trusts us so much, He's giving us this gift of collapse.
Mm.
Can you imagine? I mean, people may think that like God hates us so much that He's like pulling the rug out, but I think, wow, God trusts us so much.
Well,
now we get all of our free will and all of our gifts to come forth to bring about something incredible.
for sure. And it was always that way. We were trusted enough to create whatever we wanted, and look what we created. We created it so thoroughly that it destroyed itself. God trusted us to go through that.
Yeah.
Yeah, up until there were enough people willing to do something else.
Hmm.
I think that's good.
I think that's good.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm surrounded by this pool of just healing waters. It's kind of fun. It's just been there, but I haven't realized.
Yeah. Right.
Oh, fun. All right.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.